Welcome to the Women on the Rise podcast. This is where we talk all things entrepreneurship aimed at female entrepreneurs. Whether you are just starting out or you have a 7 or an 8-figure business, we bring you the greatest tools, techniques, and ideas for inspiration for your business. I also interview some of the world's leading entrepreneurs from all over the world to hear about their businesses and what they've done to grow and scale their businesses. I welcome you to join us in our journey for Women on the Rise. Welcome to another episode of Women on the Rise, where we are recording our podcast in Auckland, New Zealand. And today I am joined by a phenomenal entrepreneur, Janine Sudbury, who is going to share with us everything about what she's been doing to build her business in New Zealand. Welcome to the podcast, Janine.
Thank you so much, Jen.
I am so pleased to have you. Not only are you one of our guest speakers at our Female Fusion event this week, I also get to have you in the podcast studio to talk about your business.
I know, it's a double whammy.
Exactly. And what's so cool, I love it because Female Fusion is international, and I've had the pleasure of speaking with a few female entrepreneurs here who are not originally from New Zealand.
Yeah.
So just like we are in Female Fusion, women all over the world, you came here from the UK and you've been here. How many years have you been here now?
I've been here 25 years. And it was funny because I was talking to the taxi driver on the way over, and he was talking about the success he's had in New Zealand. And I said, I really feel New Zealand is a land of opportunities. If you're prepared to work hard, there's nothing's going to stop you. It's an amazing place to set up your own business.
I think that's really interesting to hear that, because I did an interview with Kath, who everyone will hear that podcast as well. And Kath Vincent was saying to me the same thing, that she's originally from the UK and she's from Manchester.
Lovely.
So not far from you.
No, only a couple of hours on the train.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Kath was saying to me as well, she's like, the really cool thing here is that I've managed to have opportunities in New Zealand that I wouldn't have had in the UK.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When I came over, I was a BBC journalist in Britain. I was very lucky to get a staff job, but progressing my career within the BBC was incredibly competitive.
Yeah.
And I think I was pretty good at what I did. I came over to New Zealand, and within a year I had my own programme on national radio. I was reading news, I was going overseas to make documentaries. I just thought, wow, this is incredible. If you've got some get up and go, and you've got a few good ideas and you back yourself, the world is your oyster here.
It's so interesting that you've said that about New Zealand, because there's a number of countries like that in the world as well. That I found that when I moved to the UAE, I went there for a year. And I went there for a year because I had a business in London. We'd won a really big contract with the UAE government. And they said, first year, you need to set up a business. You need to have a team here. You need to be here. After that year, you can go back to the UK. And I was convinced I was going back to London. I was like, okay, I'm going to be in Dubai for a year. I'm going to love the sunshine, not pay tax for a year, all those great things. And then I'm going back because I loved my life in London. And then after like 6 months there, I was like, I'm not going back. I don't want to go back, because I had so many more opportunities in that region that I never would have had in the UK. Like, for example, I had a business that did communications training, media training, and public speaking. And so we were doing things like media training heads of state, working with governments in the region, creating their first communication strategy for the whole government and 50 government entities. And I was like, there is no way I would have that opportunity. No. Now, you would get other things and you would do other interesting things, but as somebody who was building their business, I was so grateful for those opportunities. And I think as well, when you're in a smaller country, it's easier maybe to get access to people, to places, in a way that's harder if you're in a bigger country.
No, I think you're right. I think in Britain, there were just so many people to compete against. And I think coming to New Zealand, I don't know, just everything seemed to flow. It just seemed to be so much easier. And it's the same in the businesses I've set up since leaving journalism. You know, if you're dynamic and prepared to take a few risks. I am a risk taker.
Yeah.
Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
Look, I think if you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah,
you have to take risks.
you do.
Most of the time it works out. Well, for me, most of the time it has.
Exactly.
But then there's also things that you look back and go, shouldn't have done that.
I know, exactly. But, you know, I think that's just part of my personality, is always being a risk taker, and I enjoy the buzz of it. I wish sometimes I was a bit more sort of careful and considered things more carefully.
But that's a bit boring.
It is boring, and I you know, I get excited about things. I'm passionate, and sometimes I like living life on the edge a bit. So
I think
it's worked in my favour so far.
Yeah, well, it has. I mean, you have a number of very successful businesses here. And I pulled something out of, I did lots of research on you. And one thing I pulled out, which I thought was really fun, is you had written somewhere, you said that when you speak at events, oftentimes you get introduced a certain way. And I want to read that. I can't memorize it. I'm pretty good at memorizing things, but I'm not. So I've got my computer here. But you said that oftentimes people say, you know, welcome to Janine, the horse whispering leadership development coach, former BBC journalist, and now owner of Sudbury, a luxury event centre located on the picturesque Kapiti Coast. That's quite an introduction.
I know it is, isn't it?
So what is that, how you introduce yourself, or what's your elevator pitch?
It would have to be quite a tall building, really, to fit it into my elevator pitch, everything that I've got to say. I mean, what would I say about myself? I would say I'm somebody who likes to help people perform better in their lives at work. This is through my leadership work, I like to free people from their fear. I like to help people celebrate and create treasured memories. That's through my work running a venue. And everything I do must be fun.
Life is too short not to have fun, right?
I like having fun. I like being mischievous, and I like bringing out the playful side in the horses I work with, and also in people, because I feel like they learn better when things are fun, when it's not too serious. And obviously there is a serious side, but if we can offset that with some good belly laughs, and then people can sort of relax, and I like my team to have fun when we're working weddings. You know, people really know when people are enjoying themselves, even the staff. So yeah, fun's really important to me. Being playful is important, and helping people transform their lives.
And you have gone from BBC journalist and now you're very focused on leadership development, but I would say it's leadership development with a bit of a twist as well.
Quite a big twist, a half a ton twist.
So tell everybody exactly what you're doing with that.
Okay, so what I do, drum roll, is I use horses as a training tool to fast track people's leadership development. And people often say, you know, why horses? Why not dogs? You know, why not a classroom experience? And the reason I use horses is because, lots of reasons actually, but they're herd animals. They're always looking for a leader. But they'll only follow somebody who puts out all the right messages with their body, because horses are fluent in body language. And so people often then say, well, so what really? Because humans aren't fluent in body language. But actually they are fluent in body language, because humans communicate. 93% of human communication is non-verbal. It's your intonation, it's your body language. And so through the horses, we can really find out what sort of impression we make on other people. It's not so much what you say, it's what your body is saying that counts. So in order to successfully lead the horse through a series of exercises, we have to really tune in to what our body is saying. And horses become like an emotional mirror to the human. And they're so sensitive, they can even match their heartbeat to the human heartbeat.
Really?
And so through the mirror of the horse, you can really start seeing what sort of leader you are, whether you're a successful leader. And in real time, you can change your leadership so that you do become successful with the horse. And it's a really emotional experience. And people who maybe they've been sent on the program, maybe they don't want to be there, perhaps they're even fearful of horses. By the end of the program, the change is just incredible, overwhelming, emotional, because they've gone through a journey with this horse. I match the person with the horse, and they've gone through a journey, and they've had to really dig deep because it's not easy. And I video it, and then I give them some horse-style feedback. Horse-style feedback, pretty much very blunt feedback.
And it's so you can get away with doing that because you're like, I'm giving it to you in horse style.
I am, exactly right. And it's a gift. And
Tough love.
it is.
From your horse.
And the funny thing is that, it as I say to people, this isn't personal.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I want to see your brilliance shine. And that's what I see. And that's how exciting it is when people put the fear to one side and then they start blooming. It's incredible.
And how long is the program? Is it like a 1 day or
It's a 2 day.
2 days.
Yeah, it's a 2 day program. And then I send them out coaching emails over the course of 3 months to embed the lessons. Programs are only as good as how effective they are back in the workplace. This is not a horse whispering program. It is a program about leadership. And therefore, we need to make sure that everything that people have learnt gets embedded back at work, and then they start flying.
So can you give me an example? Because I'm sure people are listening to this going, so what do you do with the horse? Good question. What sort of exercises?
They're so simple, or rather, I'll rephrase that. I make them look so simple. They're groundwork exercises. It's things like stopping the horse at an arm's length behind you, lifting your energy, walking into the horse's space. Now, if the horse respects you, they'll walk out. But you've got to have the right energy. You've got to have the right level of commitment. You've got to be clear about your standards. You have to be very clear in how you communicate what you're asking the horse to do. You've got to make sure you reinforce with positive feedback. You've got to make sure your physical body is sending out all the right messages. You've got to learn to build the strongest relationship quickly with the horse to motivate the horse to want to work for you. Now, when you get all of that in the right balance, the horse becomes putty in your hands. The magic starts, but it is a process, and it doesn't happen within, well, actually it takes 2 days. And then by the end of 2 days, what people are achieving with their horse is unbelievable, because we introduce obstacles, things that the horse won't want to do. But because you've built that relationship based on trust and respect, the horse follows. And that's when people can suddenly see, wow, actually, I can achieve whatever I want. The only thing that's been holding me back is me.
But that's always the case, isn't it?
It is always the case, but
the
usually people don't
is us. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But can you imagine how liberating it is to realise how it's not hard to put that fear to one side? And the horses can be quite scary.
Yeah.
And you've got to hold your ground.
And are people just doing work on the ground with the horse, or are they getting up and riding?
No, there's no riding.
There's no riding.
Because some of these horses, I'm using horses that I know nothing about.
Right.
I get a brief from the horse's owner, and then I match it with a brief from the manager of the leader.
Okay.
And it's always a new relationship. I don't know what's going to happen. This is not a simulation. It's not role play. It's the real deal. This leader must horse whisper and train their partner. And every relationship is different.
And do you have people, I'm asking this because I've just come back from running Female Fusions retreat in Kenya.
Lovely.
One of the things that I didn't think about was how people reacted to some of the wildlife in Kenya. So like for me, I'm super chill with all animals. Even like insects don't faze me. Don't like snakes. Anything else, like any sort of creature, doesn't bother me.
Really?
What I found interesting, what I didn't know, is how many people are scared of monkeys, for example. Like freaked out by monkeys, because it's not like when you're properly in Africa, it's not just, oh, there's a monkey over in the tree. Monkeys are super naughty. So the monkeys will break into your room, they will go through your stuff. And I was warned about this on the first day, and I'd been there before, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Like I was just so chilled. I'm like, they're not going to come in and bother me. And I think I went out for about half an hour, and I came back and they had ransacked my room. They had broken into my room, pulled out my contact lenses, threw them in the trees. So they were like going around trying to find my contact lenses, knocked over all the tables and chairs in my room, and pooped all over my bed.
Oh my God, that's funny.
And I thought it was hilarious, and I took a video because I thought it was hilarious. And we had people who were like super terrified of the whole. They were like, I don't want to see the monkey. I don't want to be near the monkey.
Really?
And
were they worried the monkey might attack them physically?
I think there was maybe some of that. There was some as well that people were like, I don't like the feeling of like the clawing of the monkeys, like going into your bag, because they'll unzip your bags and they'll go like they're smart monkeys. They're used to stealing stuff, and they're cheeky. Like they're very naughty monkeys. Like I didn't even think about it before, and now because we're doing the retreat next year, that we've had to put a monkey warning on it and be like,
That's just bizarre, isn't it?
If you don't like monkeys,
please don't come.
Well, if you come, you just need to be aware that there's monkeys and realize that you're going to come across monkeys every single day. There are monkeys.
I mean, spiders I can understand. I don't like spiders very much.
No, but
yeah, I get a lot of people who don't like horses.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because I thought like monkeys, I wouldn't have thought about monkeys. I know a lot of people are really scared of horses because they're much bigger than them. And horses, if they get spooked, can cause injuries. So that's very fearful.
And they're big, aren't they?
Yes.
They're big and scary. They're half a ton.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny. Well, there's a few things to say. Firstly, people who are scared of horses, they are so thankful at the end of the program because they're not scared by the end.
That's great.
Which is amazing.
So it's kind of helped people get over a phobia as well.
Totally. And I've had people who are terrified, who've almost been crying when I hand them their horse. And by the end, they say, I'm going to get a horse. I'm going to do horse riding. I know, they're so excited about the experience of spending time with the horse. And then I get those people occasionally, or sometimes I get miniature horses or ponies that look really cute. And these people are like, yes.
But they're like the super stubborn ones, right?
They're so they're like the monkeys.
Yeah.
They run rings around them, and it's hilarious seeing these people go from euphoric to, this pony's not listening to me. So, yeah, it is really fun. I love seeing the surprise and the emotion behind the partnerships and the relationships and seeing them grow. It's lots of fun.
That's fantastic. I'm really interested. So somebody goes through this. So you will have a company send their team on the program with you for 2 days. What sort of transformation did they see in the workplace afterwards?
Huge. I mean, I've had, say, for example, I had one woman, she came about 11, 12 years ago, and I matched her with one of my horses called Romeo, and he was an arrogant, cocky chap, and who could be quite dangerous. And this lady, I'll call her Sarah, she was pushed around by this horse. She looked defeated. She couldn't, every time she put her hand out, the horse would just walk straight into her hand and she'd back off. She was basically giving the horse the role of leader. She never stood her ground. And then on the second day, something snapped in her. And finally, she realized that if she didn't stand up to this horse, she would have to just give up and leave the arena. And she got so frustrated, she finally really meant it. And the horse started listening. So it was amazing to see her finally lose the years worth of fear, because the reason she'd been sent on the program was because she was considered too nice. She was in HR.
Okay. So
And
that's
so-
why she got Romeo. Romeo's
That's right.
Romeo's the one that you
she
pull
could.
out.
You can't be nice with a horse like Romeo.
Right.
Romeo smells fear. He smells weakness. He's in. He's not stupid. He's smart. So she went back to work, and her career that had flatlined went like this. And
amazing.
and now she's GM with this huge company, HR GM. So this is not a story that's a one-off.
Yeah.
I had two ladies come to me, I think it must have been about a year ago or so, and they were sent because their careers had really sort of flatlined, I suppose. And they did the program again. They had this huge transformation, and their careers have just taken off.
Wow.
So I find it different working with men and women. I find sometimes the things that the women need to learn are different from the things the men need to learn. So often the women, it's about losing the fear, not trying to be so nice, not trying to win a popularity competition, losing the imposter syndrome. And then it's just incredible to see women suddenly fly. It's amazing.
You also talk about empathetic leadership. How can women, and I guess even as well female entrepreneurs, because we have a lot of female entrepreneurs listening to the podcast, how can they be more empathetic leaders?
I find women are generally very empathetic leaders. I don't find it's a problem for women to become more empathetic. I think it's the type of relationships that they're building that not gets them into trouble, but holds them back. And the relationships that I encourage my leaders to develop are built on trust and respect. And I find a lot of women want to be liked. Now, being liked is neither here nor there. If you're liked, that's nice. If you're not, it doesn't matter, because you're here to get a job done. You're here to run a successful business. And I find that it's a huge relief for women to realise that they don't have to be super popular all the time, because it makes it very difficult to have challenging conversations and make tough decisions when you're at the back of your mind, you're thinking all the time, oh, they're not going to like me.
Yeah.
It's okay not to be liked.
When you have to run a business.
You've got to run a business. You're there to do a job. So we can be empathetic and show compassion and build relationships and find out about the people we're working with in order to motivate them and get the best out of them. But it doesn't mean to say that we have to be everyone's best friend. And I think that's very liberating.
Yeah. I hear from a lot of female business owners, though, that this is one thing that they struggle with, that as they grow their business, as they have a team, being a leader and kind of managing all of that team and really stepping into that CEO role is really hard.
Yeah, and this is, I do get this a lot with people who've risen up and now have to manage the team that they used to be part of. And this is also very challenging, and it's exactly the same answer. It's like you're there to get a job done. And, you know, if you're doing your job well, if you're paying attention to your people, if you're getting to know your people, the relationship will build and you will motivate those people to follow you. But you can't be a doormat.
Yeah.
And
That's not
sometimes
going to work well for your business.
it's not going to work well for anything.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult. I understand it's difficult to have those challenging conversations, but leadership is about having courage. It's about being resilient. And for me, what I'm teaching people is a balance between warmth and strength. And the principles I teach, some of them are warm skills and some of them are strong. Now, when you're working with the horses, if you're only focusing on all the relationship and the feedback, and the horse will walk all over you. If you're only focusing on the having clear standards, being committed, the horse will not give you his heart. He will go through the motions.
Yeah.
You must have the balance between warmth and strength. And when you get that balance, it's like a seesaw. When it's aligned, then the magic happens. And it's exactly the same when you take that back in the workplace. It is that balance between building those amazing relationships, giving people great feedback when you think that they've really done a great job, really understanding your people, but also having clear goals, following through, sticking to your standards, having positive energy. And then you can really be a change maker. And that's when your people will follow you anywhere.
And that is, for so many people, really challenging.
Everything's challenging.
If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Exactly. But the great thing is, I suppose, and I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but when you work with the horses, you find the solutions yourself. You find out what works for that horse. You have to adapt your style. And you come away from the program with all the skills to take that leadership back to work. And also not just the skills, but you have felt what leadership feels like. You've had the success. You know what you need to do. And I think it's that feeling of aha. It's that aha moment. Now I understand what true leadership is all about. It's not something you can read about in the book. No. I felt it. My cells understand it. I know what to do.
Well, there's like no school. I mean, there are schools, but the thing is that you don't actually know. It's from experience and having the right mentors and having the right training and coaching.
Totally. You've got to actually do it.
Yeah.
And I'm compacting years worth of leadership experience into 2 days.
Wow.
And it's pretty amazing because by the end of 2 days, people cannot wait to get back to work. They are pumped.
Putting it into place.
They want to put it into place because they've been given the key. They've been given the solutions. I don't drip feed them things, but they've worked it out for themselves and what it works for them. And they've got the results. So they can't wait to go and try it on the 2-legged variety of animal rather than the 4.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you as well, I noticed that you've talked a lot about the pursuit of excellence. And I wanted to understand a little bit about that and about what you mean by that.
Well, I think it's just, I think in everything that you do as an entrepreneur, you want it to be excellent. I mean, it's my name is on the gate of my business, and therefore I want it to run as well as it can possibly run. So as you can imagine, weddings are a high stress game. Yeah. There's a lot riding on it. And attention to detail is everything. The devil is in the detail when it comes to running a complex event like a wedding. And it's the same with leadership. It's my responsibility to make sure every person on that program has the journey they need to have. And I need to be reading every person. I can't slack off. It's exhausting. Yeah. But I must make sure I hold the group together and that I'm giving what I need to give to each individual to make sure that they reach the breakthrough moments. So for me, that is my form of pursuit of excellence. I want everybody to have the greatest learning they can. Yeah. I want everybody who comes to an event, whether it's a wedding or a team building event, to have had the most excellent experience. But I don't let that hold me back, the pursuit of excellence, because sometimes I understand that people with imposter syndrome can become perfectionists.
And I wanted to ask you about that because I think a lot of people, not a lot, but I know some women really struggle with that, and it almost has them with the desire to have everything perfect. It almost leaves them in paralysis.
It does.
You know, not able to make a decision, not able to finish a project, not willing to launch something new because they're stuck in their head thinking it's not good enough, or I just need to do this, or I need to do that.
Yeah, and my advice is just do something.
Yeah.
And yes, it's different when you're running a wedding, but because you've got to have it just so.
Weddings are slightly different.
But when it comes to day-to-day running of the business, I had some very good advice from a marketing expert years and years ago. And I was writing some marketing letter. And I said, oh, it's not quite right. He just said, for God's sake, just send it out.
Yeah.
It's never going to be perfect. And I thought, gosh, that's so liberating.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's not perfect because let's face it, our businesses evolve, our marketing evolves. Let's put it out there.
Yeah.
We can then tweak it later and do it a bit better next time. But if we don't put anything out there, we're not going to get anywhere.
Correct.
So you've got to act.
And it's the done is better than perfect sometimes.
Absolutely.
You know, the
Totally.
80-20 rule that, you know, if it's like 80% there, you know, so long as it's not rubbish. Like, I think you need to put out good quality work, but it is as I had this in the beginning of my business, that I would take forever to write a proposal because I would just be so obsessed with getting every single little detail perfect. Do you think it made them choose me over somebody else? Probably not. Well, I was quite good at winning new business proposals, but looking back at it, I'm like, how many hours did I waste doing that when I could have written that in 30 minutes and be done with it and probably won? But instead I spent 3 days because I was like, no, it's not just perfect and I need to change this image and do that graph. And sometimes we need to get over that.
I think we do, don't we? And I think you're not going to get anywhere in a state of paralysis. But it's a very common problem. And I know a lot of women who, you know, especially when they feel quite overwhelmed by how much work they've got to get through, they end up not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
It's just too much to do. It's too hard to decide what to do. And therefore, they just think, oh, I'm not going to do any of it.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible feeling. So, yeah, just get stuck in, get it out there.
And remember, if it were easy, everyone would be doing it.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be hard.
It is supposed to be hard. And it is hard being an entrepreneur because you've got to become an expert in so many different fields. And that can be really overwhelming as well because we all know the bits that we're good at doing.
Of course.
But we've got to become good at other bits too.
I sort of feel that when you have your business, I was joking with a friend the other day saying that it's almost like you're the jack of all trades but the master of none.
It's true.
You know,
or the master of very few.
I'm the master of one or two things.
Yeah.
But then I'm the jack of all trades, like do everything else because you just have to when you have your business.
But I think that's actually what keeps one interested in the business because if we were just doing the things we were good at, it might get a bit tedious after a while. I mean, it's quite nice to feel challenged and frustrated by things.
But it's also important to always be learning and to have that mindset of constantly learning. And all of the business owners that I know that are 7-8 plus figures, they're like, one of the main things is I'm always learning. I'm taking a course, I'm going to a mastermind, I'm going to a conference, any of these sorts of things, just because they still see that even though they're so successful, there's still so much more that they can learn.
And it's having an inquiring mind, I think. I mean, I've always gone through life with an inquiring mind. I'm nosy, I'm interested.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I chose journalism, because I love finding out about how other people do stuff.
Yeah.
And seeing if I can incorporate their ideas into what I do.
Totally. Now, having people do stuff. So you've done a lot of work with sports people as well.
Yeah.
How do you see the connection between working with professional athletes and also the business world? Are there any sort of crossovers?
Loads. It's so interesting. So I've worked with people like Steve Hansen, the former All Black coach, and I've worked with all sorts of coaches of athletes. I've worked with the Super 15 rugby coaches, and one of their biggest learnings was, so we actually don't treat all our athletes the same way. And I was like, no, this is exactly the point.
Yeah.
Just like each horse needs a completely different approach, so does each person you're working with to bring out the best in them. And you can't hope that they're going to change to suit you. You have got to change your style. You've got to adapt to bring out the best in them. That was a huge learning for them. And for somebody like Steve Hansen, for example, I mean, he had racehorses. He thought this was going to be a piece of cake, a walk in the park. And so I matched him with a really feisty thoroughbred racehorse just off the track. And he fought and fought because he's quite a domineering personality.
Right.
And he tried to dominate this horse, and she tried to dominate him. And
Fireworks.
she was rearing up, and he was getting annoyed, and nothing was working. And then the next day he came back, and he must have had a huge rethink. And he started becoming more collaborative. He was giving her feedback, and she was softening. And he was changing his body language to provide a safe space for her. And then she started to trust him. And then suddenly she was following him.
Wow.
And it was incredible. And he said afterwards, he learnt more about himself in that 2 days than he'd learnt in his whole lifetime.
Wow.
Through that horse.
I tell you, Janine, you're making me want to come and do this program with you.
I
It
hope
sounds
you do,
fantastic.
Jen. Yeah.
Wow. Maybe
Come
we
and
should
do it.
Maybe we should do like a female fusion.
I think we
one.
should.
Yeah.
But just so long as everybody realises that someone's got to have the donkey. In fact, I had one group, they said, please don't give anyone the donkey because these guys can't cope. Their ego would...
So you do that you'll play around and one person
Oh,
gets a donkey?
I'm always playful. So
I
I
love donkeys.
love donkeys too, but they're so stubborn.
They're so beautiful, though.
I know.
Especially, so my home is in Dubai, and we'll go camping sometimes in the mountains. And the mountains are filled with wild donkeys.
Really?
Yeah. And it's quite common often that you'll be sleeping in your tent at night, and then a wild donkey will come near
my
your tent, and
goodness.
you'll hear them, and then they'll start making the donkey noises
Yeah.
at 3:00 in the morning.
Wow.
Not always welcome, but they're beautiful.
Oh, they are.
Love donkeys.
I love donkeys too.
But they're a bit stubborn.
They're so stubborn. But what's so interesting is if people get the balance right working with Honti, that's my donkey.
Yeah.
Because he is stubborn, sometimes people try and dominate him and then he just shuts down. So you've got to be firm, clear with your communication, but also really build up that relationship. And then he starts working for you. But 9 times out of 10, people can't quite get the balance and then they lose him.
Oh.
So it's really interesting, and he's so sensitive as well.
So he needs lots of love.
He needs lots of love, but he knows when you're a pushover. He needs love, but also clarity
Right.
and follow through. So
Sounds like raising my children.
just like raising children, learning what I've learned has helped me so much raise my child. It's been amazing. And deal with my brides.
Yeah, very brave.
Yeah, but it was really fun. It really amused me that they'd even said, look, none of us want the donkey.
And so you didn't give them the donkey?
No, I didn't, because that was a condition of them coming on the programme, much as I would love to have given all of them a donkey just for a
Yeah.
joke. But no, they didn't want one person to have the donkey. They felt it would be, I don't know.
I guess you can see it maybe that one person might feel singled out or, yeah.
But then, so, there's miniature horses, there's mules I use. I mean, I use everything.
Okay, so you just gave them a mule?
So I didn't have the mule on that occasion. But, oh, God, this mule was amazing too.
Oh.
I mean, you can find the beauty and the joy in every horse, every animal you work with. It's just about your attitude, I think. So it doesn't matter who gets the donkey.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who gets the naughty fat pony. It doesn't matter who gets the big scary horse. It's your approach. That's what this program's all about.
And you've had a number of businesses, and you've spoken a bit about your win-lose journey, that you've
Yeah.
had some things that worked, some things that haven't. Maybe could you really shortly maybe give me kind of maybe one of your lose phases in business. What happened?
I ran businesses, and this was before my current businesses. So I ran a sort of a horse training business with my ex, and it was not a successful business. And the reason I think it wasn't a successful business is that we didn't follow the money. There were so many things that we wanted to do. And when you're working with horses, a lot of things just don't make money because horses are so expensive.
Yeah.
And so that for me was a really important learning. It's like, don't get distracted by all the fun stuff that you could do. You actually need to have a business that's going to make some money. So perhaps do the fun stuff as a hobby and just focus on the things that will give you a good income instead. So that was an important learning for me.
That is super wise.
Is it?
Well, it is, and it's
And
a
quite
really
basic,
good,
really.
and it's a really good learning. Well, you say that it's basic, but again, nobody tells you these things,
I
right?
know,
And
they
it is
didn't,
like
no.
when you're growing and everything is happening fast. But it is because a lot of times we go with where our heart is, right? Well,
This is
really wanna
exactly
do
it.
that.
Yeah, totally.
But if it's not making you money,
No.
18 months from now, you're not going to have a business.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we've only got a certain amount of time to get things up and running, and we don't want to be wasting years and years feelings of working ourselves into the bone and not having anything to show for it. What's the point? And I think my other things that I've learned is that you get things done when your back's against the wall, and,
Yeah.
and deadlines are really good. I mean, I get so many things done when there's a tight deadline. And, you know, I don't know if I would have put myself out there as much as I've had to put myself out there because I was a single parent with no money. And, you know, it was not a comfortable place to be, going to the supermarket and not being able to afford food and putting it back on the shelves. I did not enjoy that feeling at all. And that really motivated me to get my shit together and go out and make things happen. You've got to make things happen.
Yeah.
You've got to be dynamic. But sometimes, you know, you need a firework up your bottom to get those things happening.
But it's good that you actually took from that, learned from it, and went on and built something successful.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would just walk away and go, that's not for me.
I know. And you see, I never thought weddings were for me. I was always the person at the end of the party in the dressing gown who got the Hoover out and sort of, come on, everyone, go home. I want to go to bed. You know? So, but again, it was a case of needs must.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about running weddings. I had to go and just get on and do it and not let the little voices take over of, you're not good enough, you don't know what you're doing.
You are good enough.
Of course I'm good enough. Yeah, everybody's good enough. We
course
can
we
all
are.
we're all geniuses, we're all brilliant.
Yeah.
Go and let that brilliance shine and don't listen to the little doubting voices. So that's what I had to do. And there was a funny experience when I was at university. I was studying American politics and I saw this advert on the wall for an opportunity to go and work in Congress in Washington, D.C. And I went to my tutor, Dr. Joanna Spear, a woman, and I said, I'd really like to do this. And she went, I'm really sorry, Janine. This is only for high flyers. I mean, looking back...
I'm so glad you called her out.
Well, I didn't call her out. I went away with my tail between my
but
legs.
You just called her out on here by saying that, because the words that people say for things like that, if you are not a resilient person, because for some people, like if you hear that, you'd be like...
You'd be crushed.
Yeah, you'd be crushed and think, I'm not good enough, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Or you could be the other way, which I bet you were. That
I
you
were.
were like...
I just thought...
Get stuffed. I am
exactly
freaking awesome, and I should be on that program.
And I was ambitious. And I wanted to do it. And yes, I probably thought I wasn't really good enough, but I thought I'm going to do it anyway, even though I know I'm probably not good enough at all. I'm not clever enough.
And so did she not let you apply?
No, I did apply. I just did it anyway.
Did you get accepted?
I got accepted to the interview stage. I did the interview. I was selected, one of 12 people from around Great Britain, to go to Congress. And so I was excited.
What does that say?
Really excited, but I was also quite fearful because I was going to meet all these big high flyers who are obviously much cleverer than me. So I got to Washington, D.C. and I met the high flyers, and guess what? They were just like me. Right. No cleverer.
Yeah.
No thicker. They were good at different things. They were normal people.
Yeah.
And that was the most important life-changing lesson, is that there is no such thing as high flyers, and nobody is better or worse than you are.
We all have our zones of genius,
of course,
right?
we do.
Yeah.
And the key is you've got to back yourself. You've got to give things a go. You've got to take a risk. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. It's like when my child makes a mistake at school, I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. Failure is so useful, because then, you know, you won't make that mistake again, and then you can go and have another go. But the key is to be resilient. And, you know, perhaps, you know, in another universe, I might have applied and not got on, which would have been okay too. But it was the going through the motion. It was the process of giving things my best shot. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. On this occasion, it worked out, and I learned that actually I'm probably as good as anyone else. I
have absolutely loved hearing about your story. I want to come do the horse training now.
Excellent. Let's make it happen, Jen.
Let's do a female fusion one. How fun would that be?
Well, I'm running a female public program in October, so perhaps we could do the female fusion public program just for women.
Yeah. Let's discuss it, make it happen. And anybody who's interested listening to this, DM us, let us know, and we can see what we can put together. It will mean you would need to come to New Zealand. It will be springtime then?
Yes, it would be springtime, or we can hold it in Dubai or London. So I found premises in London because I have other organisations interested in doing it over there.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So we could do it in the UK?
Absolutely. We could do it anywhere.
In Dubai? Or...
There are horses pretty much all over the world.
There are. Yeah.
and that's really all we need, or the odd donkey and mule.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this podcast interview. I've absolutely loved hearing about your business.
Thank you, Jen.
And getting to know you.
Thank you very much for asking such, fantastic questions.
Well, coming from a BBC journalist, thank you very much. I feel I've done all right.
Excellent. You have. 10 out of 10.
Oh, right. Thanks very much, Janine.
Welcome.
I don't know about you, but social media can feel pretty overwhelming sometimes as a business owner. It just feels like there is constant work that always needs to be done, which is why I have recorded for you a completely free 45-minute masterclass called Marketing Without Social Media. And inside, I share with you my tools and techniques that I use to grow Female Fusion and the other businesses that I have had. So I give you the tools, the techniques, and the frameworks to put that in place in your own business. All you need to do is head over to femalefusionnetwork.com/